And then in 48 hours, we got hit by 3 bombs. Okay. First, we learned that NiKo has proactively talked to Falcons for 6 months to agree on a deal without talking to us. It was leaked. That's how we discovered it. Then we have m0NESY, who has been, and it's very clear, he's been poached for the last 3 years by all the Russian teams, but very directly by Cloud9, agreeing on almost on the deal, and m0NESY basically telling us that if NiKo is going, and apparently it's done, he also wants to go to Cloud9.
Sell in-game items at the best prices in just a couple of clicks. We are the biggest instant sell service for in-game items like Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, and Rust. Easy selling process and instant withdrawal of funds to the most popular payment methods. More than 140,000 deals and 50,000 active sellers every month. Use promo code HLTV5 and get a 5% bonus on the sale of your skins. Skin Place. Sell items now.
It was more than a game. It was everything. Every single emotion on display. Not a moment missed. This was CSGO through the lens.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Counter-Strike fans across the globe, welcome back to another episode of HLTV Confirmed. I missed a week, but I'm back. We've got Prof, we've got Striker, we've got Lucas on the 1s and 2s. Gentlemen, let's do a quick little introduction. Obviously, shout out to the sponsors, Skin Place, as well as Anthros. If you want some chairs, head to Anthros. If you want to sell some skins, head to Skin Place. Don't mix up the two, because if you start selling skins to Anthros and buying chairs from Skin Place, you might have a weird time. Anyway, hello.
Hello.
Okay, great. That's the intro. Now, look, on tonight's show, we're going to be diving into all things that have been happening, been lots of roster changes going on, but that'll be the second portion of the show. The opening, and we can bring him in right now, is going to be the CEO of G2 Esports joining us this evening, alias Stillgov, fan of June, aka Alban. I hope I said that correctly. I always mess up pronunciations and names, even sometimes my own, is joining us tonight. Thank you, sir, for being here.
Thank you so much. Super happy to join the official G2 roster show, you know? Like,
we love talking about you guys here.
We don't talk about them enough, apparently.
We can't stop. Look, Alban, what I would love to do, because if anybody heads over to your Twitter, they can see it has X-Riot Games, Coca-Cola, and Havas. And the last one I'm not familiar with. The first two I am. I would love to know a little bit about you and you know, what you've done throughout your journey.
Yeah, happy to do that. I'm a rugby player, rugby union, not rugby league, you know, for the Australian fellows. And so I played a lot, 20 years of rugby, played first division in Germany, played a bit of national team underage. So that was my sports. And when I couldn't make pro with the big boys, I tried to do everything to play outside the field, sport business, you know. So I started with like Havas, which is a creative agency specialized in sponsorship, do a lot of things around how can brands connect with fans through their passion. And then I joined one of my clients called Coke. That's where I started something called esports for the first time as a sponsor. So in 2012, sponsor a small indie game called League of Legends, first global sponsor of it. And then just at immediate crush, like for me, it was kind of like the mix of like sports and entertainment culture all in once. So I decided to make a switch, joining my partner, Riot Games, and yeah, working on different things such as launching leagues and launching games. And then one of the team I was working with and sometimes arguing with was G2. And after a few discussions, poaching from their side, I decided to join the team. First as a CEO, so I kind of like the the guy in charge of implementing the operations of the crazy ideas of a CEO called Carlos. And then when Carlos went a bit too far in terms of craziness, the board asked me to take over the reign of G2.
Okay.
So nice to hear that the poaching rules from League of Legends didn't make it to the top. You know, like you could still make the move over.
The next job, EWC, calling you right now.
Okay. I mean, if you look at my career, I usually work for my partners. So
yeah,
I could join a sponsor. I could join a TO. Maybe I'm gonna join HLTV. You know, we are so close now.
Well, not that close. Not that close. I wouldn't say we're partners yet. Let's just put that out there. But no, yeah, nice to have you on the show. Obviously, we spoke about this even last week, but you couldn't make it on the show that we actually had with m0NESY, and I think it makes more sense to have it separate anyway. So many questions, so many opinions out there. As I said just before we went live, you know, one of the good and bad parts about being a big team is like everyone talks about you, so everything you do is a a point of discussion. A lot of criticism recently. I think I'll just ask the question I also asked m0NESY kind of to start off is was losing NiKo and m0NESY inevitable?
No. I mean, I don't want to make jokes about a famous quote that was misinterpreted, but I think it's always a choice at the end. Choice from the players, first and foremost, and choice from the organizations. We tried in both cases to build a future with NiKo and with m0NESY. We failed, and that's a regret, of course, because when you have some generational players like that, legend of the game, and they basically tell you that they want to break up, in other words, I think it's painful, but I mean, it's kind of like responsibility to make the best of this breakup to the future, you know? So I don't think it was inevitable, but we probably missed the mark and we didn't do enough to make them fall again in love with G2, you know?
Yeah, and no open relationship wasn't on the cards. I don't know what that would be in this case.
Yeah, I don't know how you can do that in this business. On that right there, right?
Conflict of interest, Prof. I think we don't do that.
I think most people immediately in that situation go straight to money, right? Is that what it came down to, a case of cash?
I mean, I don't think we save any attempt to offer a big extension with financial positive impact for Ilya. I think NiKo never spoke about the money when he was discussing why he wanted to move to another project with us. So I don't think money was a problem. If you mean by that we decided to sell because we wanted to make money, I don't think so. I think we'd have been very happy to keep them both if we could have done it.
But I think that would have been under the assumption that they would stay for longer than their contracts would be, right? I mean, I think...
Yeah, I mean, like NiKo had a bit more contract than Ilya. So we were not at similar risk, especially after he decided last minute to stay. I think we had an extension, so we were like quite well protected in terms of like duration, considering also that he was a bit older than Ilya in terms of like career. Ilya, yes, we were under pressure on the contract, so that was kind of like a big factor in the decision.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good place to start then, kind of like how it led to, obviously there was that first time that NiKo wanted to leave, then he ended up staying. And you're saying that that there came an extension, right? I'm not sure that we actually knew that for sure. I know that there were a lot of rumblings about that his contract was meant to be longer, right? Or it was extended at that point. So yeah, I mean, I guess maybe walk us through how that happened and how over that year that he ended up staying further, it changed to him, ending up leaving in the end.
You mind if I put this first in context of like how do we work at G2 on these kind of decisions?
Go for it.
Because I think this is kind of help a bit more of a dialogue about each of the events if you understand how we approach this kind of situation. So first of all, we have right now I think 10 rosters in 7 games. So it's not like we have a process for CS and something else for the others. We are kind of like way of working for all rosters, all player change and things like that. Starts with like daily reports from every single roster that come from either the staff or the management or both. So every day we know what's going on at training in the life of a team and how some of the, I would call it like the yellow flag or the weak signals are evolving in terms of like things we want to fix long term. And then every quarter, we sit down with the general manager or the team manager to assess the whole situation about roster. Like the general manager touch base with the coach, touch base with the players, try to collect some input, and then give a as fair as possible assessment of the situation for the rosters. That is not just performance results, that's easy to as a photography, but more kind of like the long-term vision we have for each roster. And that's where we assess if we see a change for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years for each position, player and staff, and what would be the best options in the market and what are the ideas we have about evolving. So that when we come to the off season, it's not like, oh, let's improvise and do something. Usually we have like 3 or 4 meetings before that to talk about what we think is the right direction. Probably taking some contact with some teams, taking contact with some agents, and try to anticipate this off-season phase as much as possible. So that's the first thing. As you can hear, this is kind of like a split of task. The staff, by staff I mean the coaching staff mostly, we expect some report about in-game things, and then from the management, which is team manager, general manager, we expect about a bit more like interpersonal relationship, aspiration, frustration, what the players are saying outside of the server. And then for the meeting, the general manager, famous peca for some people who know him, come to kind of like an assessment, but also some recommendation with the input of everybody. So final decision is always on executive team, but that's kind of like a process that we have on m0NESY. So that's kind of like how we work. One detail, because I hear it sometimes, or I receive this feedback sometimes, we don't sell a player here to buy another player there. So it's not because we sell a players on CS that we're going to sign, I don't know, Jogomo on Valorant or Caps on League of Legends. Each roster is thought as a standalone business, and we try to make every roster sustainable. And when we have some acquisition, we try to finance them with like selling and not like the opposite, or very, very rare that we compare one business to the other. They are very different publishers, different organizers. So we try to avoid that at all costs. That's
Yeah, just wanted to something you mentioned there about like the decision to like sell or buy a player, you said is on the executive part. So just maybe to clarify that, because you said kind of peca makes recommendations and then it's on you and Julius to make the sales, or how does it work, if I understood correctly?
So Julius is the director of esports, is considered by me as management because he's like in charge of the vertical of all the rosters. He usually is the person that partner with the GM or the TM to cook the recommendation. And then executive team is like the CEO, the CFO, and the COO, so the 3 executive of the company that are involved entirely on this kind of like strategic decision for the rosters. We're a small company. I know it's a big G2 compared to some teams, but it's 150 employees. We have mostly as an activity to compete and to entertain. So winning or losing is key for success. And so that's the core of the kind of strategy decision we do every month.
Okay. So what was the question for me, Striker? I forgot.
I'm sorry. You wanted to talk about NiKo.
Yeah.
I just wanted to give a bit of context of how we work so that I can elaborate in each details of how it works.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I was just going to kind of steer it in the direction of, how it all began, kind of like this era, this like direction into a new era without NiKo and without m0NESY, into G2, and that obviously started with NiKo's first attempt at leaving, which then ended up not happening. So I just wanted to talk about that first year of that.
I think we are coming out of a good year, the best year in the last 5 years of G2 with like 3 trophies and big ones. The challenge we identified are, I think, on 2 sides. When you think about the quarterly meeting and how we assess the rosters, I think there's 2 things. One, we have a very aging roster. If you think about like the profile of the team, we needed to find any options in each off-season to probably make 1 changes every 6 months to rejuvenate the team and prepare the future. And then the second thing is like we had some positive and I would call it doubts around HooXi as an IGL. And so for sure, it was kind of like, how can we anticipate the next off-season to improve the roster like we do every time, or we try to do every time if we make changes. We come back from Melbourne where we didn't do well.
Sydney, right?
Sorry, Sydney. I was like confused.
Yeah, no.
Same place.
Yeah, I mean, it's from here, it's far, but I understand. So we come back from Australia with very disappointing results. I think we expected to do something great for Justin, and it turns into a very disaster round. And then in 48 hours, we got hit by 3 bombs. Okay, first we learned that NiKo has proactively talked to Falcons for 6 months to agree on a deal without talking to us. It was leaked. That's how we discovered it. Then we have m0NESY, who has been, and it's very clear, he's been poached for the last 3 years by all the Russian teams, but very directly by Cloud9, agreeing on almost on the deal, and m0NESY basically telling us that if NiKo is going, and apparently it's done, he also wants to go to Cloud9. And then following that, NEMA, feeling a bit betrayed by the action, also asking to move to Vitality, where he has already a deal waiting for him. So that was kind of like a bit of a shock. We were working patiently on some potential changes, maybe 1, maybe 2 at the end of the year to upgrade the team. And that was kind of like not the plan. So good learning for us to also anticipate the worst, because that's what happened to us. At that moment, I think Hunter has been the rock, has been the one that committed first to stay no matter what to G2, even if Ilya and NiKo go, he will stay and help us rebuild. So that's important for us. That's why also he's at such an important position for us in the roster, because he's not just a player, he's also a captain and someone very solid for the team and the organization. Ilya, at that moment, we had more than 2 years of contract left, so we just closed the door. And I think the passion of the game made him like reconsider his position. And after a few weeks, he decided to stay, even if NiKo was going to leave. And NiKo, I mean, we decided to accept. I think it's first of all, I want to take the opportunity to apologize for some words I used in a French interview. I believe this was taken out of context. I was barely making a comparison between the situation of players being free agent and players being under contract, and how it influenced the way the decision is made by the 2 clubs and not just the players when it's happening. But I think it really sounded like I don't value NiKo as good as he is, as a legend of the game, and it's not fair. And I didn't like it, so that's me apologizing to him. I told him already at the awards in Belgrade when he was around, but I think it's important to mention it publicly. So why we accepted the deal back then? First, probably because we felt betrayed. I think we have been working a lot with the input of NiKo and some key decision on the rosters and in general on the way the team is working for bootcamp in Belgrade instead of Berlin, and how we organize media days. Like we took his inputs very heavily as a leader of the team, and to learn that he has been talking to them for 6 months and then the deal was already cooked and he just came to inform us after the leak happened was a bit disappointing. Second, because he was pushing out for it. I think he had a lot of argument about why this was the right time, all the things that G2 was not going to offer him. And for us, it was also maybe we thought the time for a rebuild. It was probably we thought one of the last chance to potentially sell NiKo to a team and then reinvest these revenues into building a younger core, as we did with m0NESY and NAVI soon after. We basically took the money from NiKo and invested in 2 players that we believe are the future of G2. So that was the thinking at that time. I would just say we probably underestimated the impact of NiKo on the rosters. Of course, he was a big voice in CT, but he was also a fantastic player, and we probably took this decision lightly. I don't know if we'd have changed the decision at the end, because that was, again, an opportunity to invest in the future. But when I look back, I think it was very important decision for us.
So how did it, I mean, from your perspective, how did it happen, or how do you then kind of allow him to come back? You know, like obviously from your perspective, the trust is broken in some way, right? But then he makes a turn and says, I actually don't want to play with Falcons. The rumor is, or like the reason that he gave was pretty much that he didn't want to not play in all the big events, you know, at the time, because Falcons didn't have all the invites and all that stuff. It was kind of an issue before they bought out the end score effectively. So yeah, just how did you then, you know, allow him to come back into the roster?
First of all, we said no. Like,
okay.
I mean, we said, like, we are working on some plans to replace you. We have, you told us how much you don't want to play for G2. So what do you expect, you know? And so I think there's like a few days where we basically said no, and he's like pushing, and of course the other players are pushing too because they don't want him to go. And so we sat down and we basically offered him like a few conditions. I'm probably not going to go into details, but he showed us some commitment. We didn't give him a bag. I've read that sometimes. We didn't convince him with money. That's definitely not what happened. Probably the contrary, you know. And then an extension, and then some commitment that nothing will change until at least a year, so that we have the time to rebuild the roster and compete. It's very difficult to make changes that are not planned without anticipation. So we ask him to make this choice to stay with us for at least a year.
Mm-hmm. And then, you know, obviously kind of 6 months later, I think it was when you got him mobs, right? And that was also one thing that came out of the French interview that you did, that change was already made with, you know, NiKo potentially leaving down the line in mind. So do I have the right idea here?
Yeah, fast track, NiKo come back, wants to go again. We discussed the timing. Not after the major in Copenhagen, not in July. And we said, look, do you remember what we discussed? December, okay, but it's going to be December. And of course, when we have the deal of NiKo locked in terms of like getting out and receiving some money in return, we have been able to anticipate some investment with Mouse, but also plan for the next one, which was HeavyGod. It's funny because we were in conversation with I'm sure we're going to talk about HooXi at one stage in Snack. But we were considering for NiKo to be IGL for 6 months, and so at that time probably we have gone with HeavyGod as an anchor. When we changed our plan for the IGL because he didn't want to do it, we went for Mouse because we're like, okay, we need to find a solution that we believe for the future. So we went for Mavs, and we convinced Mavs to go for anchor position, which worked very well for the transition.
So wait, you asked NiKo when to be an in-game leader for 6 months? This would be halfway through
after
2024.
After that, after 6 months.
Of course, what they actually won with him as IGL. I got it. Okay, I'm curious about what the thinking is there, because obviously, especially if you think that he might leave in the end anyway, you know, to give him the reins for the rest of the year when he might leave at the end of the year after, you know, coming back to the roster. Did you not see that as a potential risk and not a better option, you know, to get a different in-game leader first so that he can kind of instill his ideas or his vision of the roster in the future, instead of, you know, being faced with having to replace NiKo and an in-game leader, you know, at the end of the year?
But can I just my vision of that is like, if you have NiKo IGLing, that means you get rid of HooXi, who was, I mean, whatever Swanee was saying, like what we also know is like some of the players didn't really get along with HooXi. You confirm now, like you're looking to replace HooXi. So if you have NiKo as the IGL and a new player, maybe then NiKo doesn't have to leave because, you know, he has a really good core around him. This is just me. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about that at the stage where Falcons didn't come back yet. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So that was kind of with the idea that he might be, you know, continuing his career as an in-game leader under G2 for perhaps years to come.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, he was already leading in CT side. He was a very strong voice on the T side. Sometimes you can argue creating some challenge for very structured IGL like AlexB or coach that wanted a bit more structure for the team. So let's do it. You know, if you want to have an influence on the game, and if you feel capable, let's do it fully so we can add another more firepower in the team and upgrade the team. You know.
Boys, can I ask one before we get too far away from that? So Sydney happens. There's all the conversations going on. You don't know what's going to happen with the team. NiKo says he wants to stay. You say no. Eventually, he does stay. Why does JKS then go? The team could have stayed the same. Sure.
I mean, like, I think first of all, there's like the decision and the way we delivered the decision. I think I can rationally explain how we came to the conclusion. I don't think there's any excuse for the way we did not communicate with Justin at that time. He was in Australia, completely in the limbo, and that's not good. That's not the right thing to do. I know peca apologized to him in public, but also directly. I still believe this was not the appropriate thing to do. And later on, for other rosters and this one also, when we have a situation where we have a doubt and we are considering a change, we inform the player, which is painful because we basically tell HooXi there's a chance you won't be part of the team and let us come back to you. But I think this is the right way to do it. So first of all, on the ghosting topic, I just wanted to take the opportunity to mention that I still believe we did wrong there, and that was not the right way to do it. Why we did it? Look, we had like it was a very split decision. We had like this idea that HooXi was probably also kind of like questioned in the roster. So we're thinking to make a change of IGL or of JKS. We took the feedback from some players. We took some feedback from the staff. I'm afraid m0NESY, because he's retired from esports, his memory failed him a bit, you know. But I have a very distinct souvenir of a written feedback from him saying that we should bench JKS as soon as possible. We should not wait another 2 weeks because this is the right thing to do for us. And then at the end, with input from staff, players, and in a very split decision, we decided to make the change. At this time, we didn't have NiKo moving anymore, so we didn't have buyout to invest anymore. So having NEXA, which for us was like a second voice for the roster, someone with a good connection with the players, and a potential backup for IGL, because we went in Stockholm in final with NEXA as an IGL, was for us that makes sense. We knew that the trade-off would be potentially on the, in terms of firepower, like we were losing, and we'll have a second player which will probably underperform. With m0NESY, Hunter, and NiKo, you kind of feel that you have a good amount of firepower. So if the team works well together, we can actually have some success. Let's put it this way: it didn't work, but I still understand why we make the call.
Mm-hmm. It feels like contingencies and future proofing with the thought process behind a lot of this.
Yeah, I mean, Chad, you weren't also on the show, but like also what m0NESY was saying is like, you know, at that time we could get like HooXi, for example. He was kind of on the market as a player that was available for joining instead of JKS. And at that time, you know, that would maybe be a good upgrade. But as the NiKo move doesn't happen, then the money is not there to make this purchase, I assume.
Yeah, I think the big thing was like we had a plan, and then we were hit by 3 rocks. And then that created a bit of a limbo that explained but don't excuse the way we didn't communicate enough with Justin. At the end, we still felt that after what happened, we needed to make a change. And we decided to go for Justin instead of moving HooXi for this offseason.
I don't think m0NESY was saying that was in any different way. If anything, he was also talking about kind of how, you know, interpersonally, maybe it didn't work and all that stuff as well. I think the one that m0NESY pointed out as one where management went against the players' wishes would have been the Taz edition at the end of the year as the new coach, right? When m0NESY decided to leave after all this. So can you speak to that? Because as far as I can recall, what m0NESY was saying, that HooXi asked for a different coach at that point, and instead you brought on Taz, right? So can you talk about that decision?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. We had like several opinions in the team. Some were positive, some were for other options. I think Taz and another coach, which was not the recommendation of HooXi, were the favorites from staff, management, and players. If you combine everything, I think HooXi was the only one pushing for the specific option of a coach that he played with in the past. So I think sometimes we have to make some call with thinking who are the players that's the most potential of being with us for the long term, and that's what we did there.
Mm-hmm.
I think NiKo picked Taz. This is what I'm reading into.
I'm not going to be specific, as you can imagine, but I would just say, like, look, we have in this roster at that time so much experience, so much firepower, so much tactical knowledge that we don't feel that we need a very strategy coach. We just need someone that will drive the collective and input with like some knowledge that only a major winner player can bring. So we went for that. Mm-hmm. And I still believe Taz is like a fantastic human being. I love how sometimes people try to emphasize some breaks to tell narrative, but I think it's amazing, and he brought a lot. I think NiKo has been very positive when he left, which shows that I think he's very capable.
Mm-hmm. I think also maybe something that you didn't speak about, but also I'm kind of reading into it. At this point, you're also kind of considering down the line HooXi is probably going to be out of the roster anyway, or at least you have considered that in the past, so you maybe don't want to give in to his wishes at that point of what coach he wants to combine with.
Yeah, it's a factor. I mean, like, as I explained, when you have like players having different needs and management vision about the rosters and things like that, you try to combine all of that and make a call. So we went for the Taz, and I'm pretty happy about it.
I guess we can just talk slightly about the future, not necessarily, putting out all the beans or whatever you say. But what is the general idea moving forward? Like, right now, I think some people call for snacks to be replaced. Some people say, both of the polls. Hades is now here on like a short term, like a loan kind of deal until the end of the major, right? And obviously you sold in the last 6 months 2 huge players. So how's the rebuild going to look? Is it going to be a quick one? Are you making big moves? Or are we like expecting G2 to have like a 1 year and a half cycle of like finding talent and building up talent?
The most PR answer you're going to get from me today, so I'm sorry in advance. Yeah, I mean, like, we have 3 months before June. We have 3 events. I'm not going to go into the details today because, by respect for players who are in New Jersey right now, and they've just been hit by a major crisis with their favorite teammates going in the middle of the season. So please apologize in advance for not like opening my books in front of you right now for what we're going to do in June. What I can tell you is like we have multiple options, from changing players to potentially changing some element of the staff, and it could be more than one. Let's put it this way. I think as illustrated by the post NiKo evolution, we probably can't replace someone like Ilya with just one trade of one player. He's too much of a role for us and too much of an impact to assume that any player on the planet, maybe Zaiwu, but I don't think the friends from Vitality will open that door, could replace him 1-to-1. So we are planning to make more than one changes, and potentially players or staff or both. And we're already working on it. I like that I'm not going to be able to confirm the buyout because I don't want to give that indication to the agent of the clubs that we're talking to. But we are,
you have a lot of money to spend, you mean?
Well, we have potentially more than a normal player, because Ilya is an exceptional player, and we made an exceptional move to accept to trade him before the major. So so of course we are compensated for that. But the goal is to invest, and the goal is to rebuild. Is it going to be immediate? Of course not. Like you cannot like assume that the team will go from being under the leadership of NiKo and having a star player like m0NESY to rebuild that overnight. So yes, it's going to take some time, but at the same time, our goal is to rebuild something with a long-term vision, with a younger core. I think m0NESY and NAVI God have a future for us, and we want to build around them.
Let's latch on to the m0NESY thing for a moment, because you just touched on, him leaving mid-season, right? And that's, in any organization's, dream world, that would never happen, just because, yeah, you have 2 months till a major, and that's always going to be the big focus. But yeah, I mean, you made it pretty clear that, that Falcons, let's say, perhaps paid more than they would have if the move came a couple of months later when the offseason came, right? Because they want to do well at this major and all that stuff. But how does it, it didn't seem like that was going to happen, at the beginning of the year when you said, I think in that same interview, something like that, m0NESY is still at the heart of the project, right? And
he was.
And it sounded a lot like you were going to do something to make him happy, for him to stay in the roster. That obviously didn't happen, and the turn seems quite quick. Within 3 months, he's out of the roster. So yeah, can you speak to that?
Sure. We tried to make it happy. We tried. I think it was very difficult to align with them. Like, what was his expectation for the roster to answer his vision? I think Ilya is famous for saying, "Let me play CS." I think it's exactly what he told us every time. Let me play CS, and I'm not ready to make a decision, and we'll see at the end. I respect that. He's very committed to his grind. Some players are more decisive in building the roster around them. You saw Apex and Zawu going hard to get Robs to join them. I wish Ilya would have done the same, but he did not. And starting from there, him not committing to help us build the roster around him, not being clear about the type of staff, teammates, and vision for the roster, it was difficult to make him happy. I want to make it clear that it was not about money. I think we offered several times like bonuses for renewal or a significant increase of salary, and that would have made him like probably one of the most paid players in the world. And he was never about that. So I want to give him to him. He was always about the project and who he wants to play with. In this case, a very particular player. In the case of NiKo, and I love to see them together because you can see it's very genuine. It's a bit sad. It's a bit awkward. I love that some casters call them the G2 duo still because they are confused too. But yeah, we have to accept that they are leaving now. And if there's one thing is, I just hope we're going to win the major for NiKo and for m0NESY. I wish them that, but we couldn't convince him.
Okay.
I have just one question. I just have one question. Because it's a name that's being thrown around. So you just tell me if this is a name that you would be interested in. Would G2 consider Simple?
I think if we would have considered him, I think it would have happened earlier in his career. But it was never the right timing. I think sometimes he was very locked with previous teams, and sometimes he was not personally as committed to the game as he was in the past. I think since his transition to CS2, I think he's less on the top of the wish list from top orgs like us. He has an amazing career. He's an amazing player. But right now, I think we are more focused on like younger players than him. And I know it would have been hyped and will very interesting for my marketing team. But we are making decision for competition first.
Okay. All right. Is everybody content, Striker Prof?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanna compliment something on m0NESY, because it feels like we take the big bag because we want just more money now than in June. I just want to complement that a little bit, and explain the real reason, because I think Falcons will have paid big bucks in June still. So that's not the real reason. The real reason is because for 3 years we have seen teams from Russia poaching Ilya, and through him or through his entourage, his brother or anything, trying to get there. And for me and the management team, there's a real risk that in June, one team, one with Donk, one with Electronic, I don't know, just listing them, would have come and tried to convince him to just wait 6 months to sign free agent in December. And for me, the real risk was not to earn more now versus June. It was more that we could have lose him completely in December for free, which will have prevent us to rebuild the way we want to do it in the future. So that's, for me, is the biggest reason for making a deal now, is because in June, there will be a risk for Falcons and for us, because I think Falcons didn't move also because of that, that another team could have convinced him to, just sign as free agent in December.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting because, I think G2 has always historically been the organization that basically had a very hard line of never letting player contracts run out. I think that was already the case I think that was the Kenya situation from quite a long time back. I think that was before your time, where, he re-signed and then, I don't know, a couple of months later, he was out of the roster or something like that, So it seems that still runs very strong in G2, I guess. Yeah,
I think it runs in a lot of sports organizations. Like if you invest into players to like significant amounts, you want to make sure that we can rebuild it when they're leaving.
FaZe should learn from this, by the way.
Well, Vitality lost some key players to Falcons too, huh?
Yeah, sure. That's fair.
FaZe might find themselves in a position where some of their players get picked up by G2 on the break. You never know. Look, I had a question.
Who knows?
I wanted to ask a bit more broadly from your perspective as a CEO of one of the top orgs in esports. Do you think Counter-Strike salary? Well, what do you think about Counter-Strike salaries? Are they where they should be? Are they too much? Are they not enough?
If you ask me, I think they are quite high. I think the most important thing for me is to find the balance between the base salary and the incentive to perform. I think right now the base salary are very high and the reward for performance are limited. So we need to find a way to rebalance this. Historically, we had like the leagues. They were mostly for the clubs, the salary as a base, and then the prize money for the competition. Because we lost the league, we had to reorganize a bit the prize money. And that created kind of like a disbalance, I think, in the way right now to be competitive in tier 1, you have to make a commitment that is at risk if you're not performing at a decent level.
Okay.
You guys were one of the drivers of, there were a lot of these conversations with PGL, right? And you were one of the big teams that were pushing for the prize money split, to follow the ESL format or, any sort of kind of split that rewards the organizations more. How much of a pain in the ass has it been internally, to deal with this with players as well? Because, obviously they must be fairly unhappy about, the organizations pushing for more prize money going their way when, historically that wasn't the case.
We try to be fair. So historically at G2, we had like a bonus complement of salary every month for players in return for all participation to the big leagues. And what we decided is to maintain it. So basically, we pay the players more than their best salary to give us the choice of which tournament we think we should participate.
Okay, fair enough.
So yes, the prize money is a bit different now, but we still compensate them for having the choice to choose the tournaments.
Okay. Wait, is there anything else that you would like to say this evening? Well, it's only lunchtime for you. It's this evening for me. Sorry, everybody.
12. I'm in the 45.
Yeah. No, I would just mention peca because he's a member of my team and I hate when people are threat professionally, but also sometimes personally with people going after his family and things like that. I just want people to understand that if you think he's taking all decisions alone, you're wrong. This is not the way it works in professional esports and professional companies. If you believe that he makes decisions because of nationality or friendship or relationship, I think you're delusional. I don't think a business like ours will just allow it. It would be a motive for him to this time get fired. And I want to just say that we are very happy, very proud to have him in our team to contribute to our success. He has 15 years experience in esports. He's blamed for NiKo and Ilya, but as I can hear today, it was rational decision and collective decision. And I want people also to remind that, picking maps to make him play anchor and join our team from Guatemala and US was probably bold. And Heavy God, after trying several times to choose him and see him performing, should be also a bit to his credit. So trying to be a bit more balanced. We take any feedback seriously. We're not a normal business. We are there because of the fans, thanks to the fans. So you are entitled to tell us all the shit that you think about our choice and decisions. But I just want you to reflect about how much one individual should be singled out versus like a more collective decision.
I saw even he spoke about this in a statement on Twitter, right? So he even said that at some point he offered his resignation. Is that right?
Yeah, and I refused it probably faster than most of the decisions we make at G2. We are very, very happy about how he's helping us build the roster for the future.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, again, thank you very much for your time this evening. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, get a different perspective on all of this. It's a topic that we've been talking about now for the better part of a year and a half, coming up on 2 years.
2 years.
It's
almost,
fine. It's fine. It's fine. Don't tell me you're going to stop. I would be disappointed. You can love us. You can hate us. We don't want to be ignored. That's the only thing,
Okay. Well, look, I do try my best, but Prof, he just can't stop talking about you guys. So every episode we have to have the G2 section. But Alban, thank you very much for joining us this evening. I'll let you go. I'll let you get out of here unless there's anything else that you want to say before we say goodbye.
No, thank you. And look forward to June, December, and the one after, and surprise you again.
Okay. Awesome. Look forward to it. Look forward to see what G2 has in store for us. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, Lucas, let's keep the ball rolling here. So do we want to reflect a little bit on that before we jump forward, gentlemen?
It was pretty informative, I would say. Like a few bits on the whole like NiKo coming and going were pretty fun, I have to say. Some expected, some not expected, and kind of, I don't know, just puts things in perspective. It was very complicated to get out of that situation of NiKo going and then coming back and staying, I feel like.
I mean, I can't imagine what those, like that late 23 period, or like when basically the three players that you want to keep all say, I want to go, like it's got to be pretty crazy. I mean, Swanee spoke about it. Yeah, he already talked about it at the last show.
Didn't
right?
I say the same things when I was going off about Justin? I literally said all those things. Yeah. I have never felt more vindicated in my life than when he mentioned about the JKS ghosting thing, because the level of rally against me when I said that shit, that it's not true and all this, I was like, are you fucking joking? Why would I be lying about this? Like, the people who come at me and say that I would be lying about that shit, what the fuck? What do I have to gain? I don't give a fuck. Like, Justin's just my friend, mate, and he just tells me some shit, and then I spill the beans, and then he's like, Chad, shut the fuck up. I don't want to talk about it. And then I upset Justin.
He just wants to play CS, just like m0NESY.
Yeah, well, he can't because he keeps getting fucked by orgs. But yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was a nice talk. So yeah, that was nice. Cool. Thanks to Alban.
I think we've answered the fans' questions as well.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see. All right. I
haven't had anybody like frantically spamming my DMs like, why did you ask this? So I guess we're fine. We're good.
Man, when these things happen, like the community, the things that they want answers on, right, tend to be those things that are angles of like, okay, so why Nexa or why Snacks or Fire Peca, right? You hear like all these things. And I think the thing that it's so easy on the outside looking in, but there are reasons for decisions. And it felt like he answered the reasons for the decisions from the org perspective.
Yeah.
Right. So like whether people agree with them or not, those were the decisions that they were making at the time based off of where they were heading. Right. So it's always more complicated than it is. Right.
Yeah. And some stuff like Snacks, he's currently on the roster. Like how much is he gonna, he can't really shit talk a player that's in the team. And
well, I'd imagine they completely rebuild after the major, right? Like, we obviously have to keep 3 players, but it just feels like they'll keep m0NESY and Heavy God and then one of the other.
Yeah, and it seems like Hunter's role in all of this is also kind of crystallized a bit, because that was one of the questions I had, is like, who do they see as their franchise player now? And it is Hunter. He's been like there for forever now. And back in when all of these like roster moves were potentially happening, he was the first one to commit to G2, you know? So that is, you earn some leeway, you know, in situations like this from org. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward. But yeah, there's a lot of market movements for the summer period to come.
I feel like we found more in this new system than we've had before. Like the ability now for teams to be making roster changes while being locked in for the May and whatnot. We'll get to that conversation in a second. There's 2 other things I want to address. The other is my Burger King shirt. I'm preparing for my next career. I would like to be a manager at Burger King. In Australia, it's known as Hungry Jacks. And the other comments have been, is SPUNJ hungover? Guys, I'm just getting old. I'm 35. I have big black.
It's also, you did a media
bags.
day. It's like 8 p.m. over there. You're not like morning rise energy.
Shiny. I'm just old, guys.
But also your hair looks, people are saying it looks like 2017 Chad. So that's good.
I guess. Yeah.
Like
nice.
his hair's always been 2017 Chad. I don't think it's changed that much, to be honest.
It comes and goes. It's very wild today. So that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. All right, let's keep going with the show. So we've got about an hour and 8 minutes left. Lucas, do you want to run the ad break now, and then we'll come back and we'll get into the next set of topics?
Sell in-game items at the best prices in just a couple of clicks. We are the biggest instant sell service for in-game items like Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, and Rust. Easy selling process and instant withdrawal of funds to the most popular payment methods. More than 140,000 deals and 50,000 active sellers every month. Use promo code HLTV5 and get a 5% bonus on the sale of your skins. Skin Place. Sell items now.
It was more than a game. It was everything. Every single emotion on display. Not a moment missed. This was CSGO through the lens.
All right, back from the break. Just want to let Roll Duck know that a hair transplant is not fake hair. It's the hair from the back of your head where the hairline is not affected by the DHT, which is the chemical excreted by your body, which makes the hair fall out of your head. So, you know, most men in their life, I would say that there's a figure out there. It's like 80% of men will suffer some form of hair loss throughout their life. And I think it's important that as men in the modern era that we talk about these things, because it can have quite an effect. Unless apparently you're from Eastern Europe, you guys don't give a fuck about anything, you just shave your head. You know, it can make you quite self-conscious. And as men, I think we should talk about this and not be miserable to each other, because we're all embracing this world together one day at a time. Anyway, let's get into the rest of the show.
Yeah, whatever. Never mind.
It's just it's
hashtag mental health Movember.
Mental health's important, you know. All right, so all the teams for the major have locked in now, so that's great. That's really good, everybody. Now let's get into Skinionaire, which I assume is going to be about all the teams locked in for the major.
Absolutely incorrect. We're talking about HooXi.
For fuck's sake, what are we going to say about HooXi?
We're talking about HooXi.
Okay, well,
we're talking about HooXi because we're talking about Astralis and HooXi.
Who's doing this? Am I doing this?
Yeah. All
right. Fuck. All right, here we go. This is Skinionaire, brought to you by Skin Place. If you would like your chance to potentially win a $50 skin, it could be $15, it could be $7.50, it could be $2.50, or it could be 50 cents, depending on the amount of questions I get correct or incorrect. Type Skin Place in chat right now. It will represent a raffle ticket for your shot in the draw. We'll randomly select a winner at the end of the quiz, and maybe, just maybe, it will be you, our lucky winner at home. Okay, let's get into this. Question number 1. HooXi made his first major with Copenhagen Flames, Copenhagen Wolves, or the Great Danes. Now, obviously, the Great Danes, that was his first football team back when he was 6 years of age. Young little HooXi running around the pitch with his favorite little duck from the pond. The Copenhagen Wolves, that was where he grew up as a teenager. He went out into the forest and he actually learned to become a man with wolves. But it was Copenhagen Flames alongside of Roy with the smiley face, Zyphon, Yabi, and of course, the last guy that I should, NiKo the Orpa, who was his first major. So locking in A, Copenhagen Flames. Correct answer is A, Copenhagen Flames.
Woo!
Okay, look at that. 1 from 1. All right, question number 2. Has HooXi ever played with anyone from the current Astralis roster? Well, guess what, everybody? I just answered the question in the previous question. So the answer has to be yes.
It's pretty easy. It's pretty easy, the questions this time. Pretty easy questions.
Okay. I like easy questions. Question number 3. HooXi attended the total of how many majors? 4 or 5?
Just 4 or 5.
So they didn't make Rio. How many did they go to as Copenhagen Flames? Just the one?
Stockholm and Antwerp, no?
They made playoffs in Antwerp, I'm pretty sure.
And Stockholm, they made it just before they went out like 9th to 11th or something, just before playoffs, I think.
To NIP, I think, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Ancient last map.
So that would have been 1-2. Then he missed Rio after he went to G2, right?
Yeah.
So that would have been 2. Then after Rio is Paris, 3. After that is Copenhagen, 4. And he didn't play Shanghai.
Yeah, so
that's
4.
It.
Yeah.
I think it's 4.
I think it's 4. Or is it 5?
I don't.
8 seconds.
It's one of the 2 for sure.
I didn't miss a major, right?
Locking in 4. Fuck it. I've locked in 4.
Under pressure.
4.
And correct.
Yeah. Well, when it's only 2, if there was 6 in the mix there, maybe we'd all 3. We could be really fucked. Okay. 3 out of 3. Moving on to question number 4. How many more events did G2 win with HooXi than with Snacks? Oh my god. They won that World Finals with HooXi. They won Katowice and Cologne with HooXi. What else did they win with HooXi? With Snacks, they won that one of the blast. They won 2 blast events, didn't they? In the second part of the year.
Do we count Dallas, where HooXi helped out from home?
No, we don't.
Oh.
Is that it that they won with Snacks? Was it only 2 events with Snacks that they won? How many events did?
I think that's
blast
correct.
event.
I don't know the actual number, even though.
Did they win 2 blast events that season?
Yeah, it was fall finals.
They won
World
fall finals and world finals.
We're talking.
So
no, we're talking about Snacks. We're talking about Snacks.
Yeah. So one more.
I think it's 1. I think it's 1.
I think you're right, but.
Well, we're out of time anyway.
Come
on! That was stressful. That was fucking stressful, guys. All right, we got there in the end. All right, question number 5. This is for the grand prize. This is for the enchilada. This is for the $50 dues. Kassad's famous. I was watching HooXi. Tirade was written during what major? Paris, Rio, or Antwerp? I think part of me wants to say it was Paris.
Because there was the fucking... Wasn't that the Vertigo thing, or am I crazy?
I think it was Paris because didn't Kassad have to be on the desk with HooXi later that year when they won?
Yeah, I don't think this was the RMR in Rio because, they were never even anywhere close, to going to win the major. So I feel like...
I think it's Paris.
I think you're right. I think you must... I mean, it's definitely not Antwerp because that's the one he played with Copenhagen Flames.
Yeah, so it's Paris.
But I think you're right.
Locking in A, Paris. Correct answer is Paris. That's 5 from 5. The confetti comes down from the sky, or in Australia, it comes up from the ground. As Who Wants to Be a Skinionaire, brought to you by Skin Place, has its grand prize delivered to one lucky winner. We'll be knocking on your door. It'll be Lucas with a big check, or it'll just be Tony Lab. That is T0NY Lab. Has been following for 5 years. And I really love it when we give it to someone who's been following for a long period of time. So Tony, shout out to you, my friend. The fact that you've been following this channel for 5 years, listening to the nonsense coming out of my mouth, and I haven't even noticed you in chat once saying anything stupid. Tony, you might be my favorite HLTV confirmed bloody viewer of all time. Shout out to Tony one time. Cool.
It would be funny if we clicked on his profile and just saw like most obnoxious, like
you,
racist
You're
fucking
a fucking
comments.
dog.
Yeah, it calls me a stupid inbred cunt. That could be funny. No one laughed. No one got. Come on, guys.
Sorry, I was.
You guys weren't watching.
There was a
Melbourne.
first-time chatter writing something about Hunter, like 15 minutes delayed. But I guess it was a big comment, so I guess it took him a while to type it out.
Okay, well, look, we're going to get into the conversations. That was all about HooXi, and that's because HooXi now finds himself as the in-game leader of Astralis. Cadian has been benched. So is Casper, or Casper's been let go. But some changes over there at Astralis after failing to qualify for yet another major. HooXi now reunited with YABI, and we'll have to see what comes next for Danish Counter-Strike in that regard. I think we have bigger problems, don't we, for Astralis? I think they're liquidity problems, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, for me, this is a question maybe Striker, you can answer. Is HooXi being signed until the end of the major, like loan thing? Is that more for HooXi?
Not the major, because they're not playing the major, but
he's joining for PGL Astana, and then
Astana. Yeah.
And I'm presuming like a few more events. We'll see how it goes. Is that more from HooXi's side or from Astralis' side? Because it doesn't. I don't know if there is a future to commit to realistically.
I think that's a big question mark right now at Astralis, because 5 majors in a row. There's been a lot of indication that the organization's been in increasing financial trouble with every single major that they missed, with all the money that they had to splash for all the players. It's just staff leaving left and right and all that stuff. Like, it's all converging into, is the org even going to survive? So it could be a case of HooXi being like I can't commit to an org that I don't know will exist, or it could even be a case of Astralis can't even pay him for a proper contract or commit to a proper contract and all that stuff, so at the moment, I think that's really the deal. I think it's both sided. Like, at the moment, they just don't know what the future is going to hold.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't know. It's so hard because everyone's over. Well, maybe people aren't. Maybe people who are Danish still like talking about this. But Astralis has been fucked for a while, and they're just different degrees of fucked. I guess the question is, if we talk about this from a Counter-Strike perspective.
No, they're very fucked. Let's just say that.
From a Counter-Strike perspective with the roster, do we think this is going to go anywhere? Do we think we get to the tournament break? Maybe the organization dissolves at some point, and then the strong pieces.
Either that or they sell. Like, either that or somebody comes forward and buys the organization, buys the company up.
Maybe you buy the core.
No, it's not about the team. It's about the whole organization, like the actual brand of Astralis. Because obviously, as much as it's cost a lot, that is still the biggest brand in Denmark in terms of esports. Probably, I can't really think of anybody else, at least.
North are pretty good.
So maybe there's still some value there. That's whether they would be able to keep it alive at the same level as it is now. With the players that they have and all that stuff. That's a big investment into salaries, like and just maintaining the roster and all that stuff. Who knows? At this point, I think everything is very up in the air.
Obviously, it's a big brand. You like, out of all the CS teams, there's so much legacy and like brand power within Denmark. It's really, you can't go. It's undeniable. So there must be some value. I don't think from today till a year from now, Astralis will not exist, but it might not exist as it is, as we know it.
Which could be
they've
for
already
a good
been
thing.
downsizing. They've already been downsizing like crazy across esports, right? They sold the LEC spots for fairly big money because they were getting into more and more trouble in terms of being able to maintain CS and all that stuff, right? So I don't know if what you're saying is necessarily right. It looks like pretty big trouble.
Yeah, I think one of the keys that people, this isn't, I wouldn't say exclusively an Astralis problem. Theirs is definitely magnified by the lack of majors. That's definitely a huge knockout blow to this organization and team. But all throughout, I would say, esports, there's downsizing going on everywhere. So I'm hearing of teams trying to get players' salaries down and teams who are letting go of people. So someone in chat just said they still
like all these majors. I remember I saw a clip that I was talking about. I think when they missed the first 2 majors or 3 majors out of the 5 in consecutive that they missed, I said that the amount of money that they lost in that time was like 3 to 4 million. That was with Paris, which was massive, obviously, and since then it's only been smaller. But still, over the 5 majors, even if the average is 1 million that you lost. That's 5 million over 2 year, like in a 2 year span. Like 3 year, let's say Anthros 2022 is the last major that they played in. So 2.5 years they didn't make a major, lost 5 million in that time. That's like,
that's a lot of money.
That's 2 million a year that you would have for a CS roster to maintain the CS roster. That would have paid for the YABI and Stown additions all like on its own, and then who knows, maybe they would be able to keep going for like easily for another couple of years.
It's just a crazy story of like bad management and like some unfortunate situations as well. You have to say like the article that we're preparing about like the 5 majors that they missed, like some of them are Config getting into a fight in Malta, getting getting fucked up, and then
kicked downstairs, having his leg broken,
not being able to play the RMR, shit like the last RMR playing without device. I mean, it's but it also karma is a bitch, I guess. A lot of the things they invited a lot of problems on themselves, and then this last roster with KDN I don't think ever made sense, and I'm really curious what he's going to say about it, because as Striker pointed out, he wasn't their first choice, and I'm curious how that reflected within the team. Like I don't think they wanted him realistically. I don't think the players wanted him. I don't think Device wanted him. I don't think it made sense. Yeah, I don't think it made sense. I don't think he ever really got any buy-in from the players. Maybe from here and there, but it never really made sense. And it's just another wasted opportunity, right? And now they have HooXi. I'm
not so sure if that's the case, to be honest, because I think, as much as Astralis will always tell you, like, it's all about the management, like the management makes all the moves and stuff like that. But if you have Kasper Straub as your GM, and like obviously that's a guy probably knows a reasonable amount of CS, like, and he knows the guys that he was with in Heroic, but there's got to be a lot of input from Device, and like there's got to be some level of influence. It's not like, let's say G2 where they're just taking input and then just making their own decision, as we saw earlier.
Yeah, I think that this leads us to a point of 2 questions. One of which being, do we think that this roster is going to do any better than the one with Katie in in-game leading? Essentially the same thing role-wise. It might make a bit more sense. I think their next event, their next event is Astana, which is going to be the event after Rivals. That's still just over 2 weeks away.
That's the only event they have at the moment for the rest of the season.
Nothing else for the rest of the season. So just quickly, do we think this is going to be better, or does that not even matter?
I think slightly better, but there are still problems. If you look at Stown in the last games of the MRQ as their should be star player. Just look at that, and I don't think HooXi can solve that. I don't think he has any influence on how this guy is going to perform. So I still think they're pretty limited, but like maybe slightly better.
I also think, the problem with Astralis was that they had a decent peak, right? But the consistency just wasn't there. Like when they did hits, like we saw it in Cluj, right? That 3rd place, that was a really solid run, and it actually looked like it was working. But then, once pressure's on, they just crumbled the fuck out of everything in Lisbon, and then it's the RMR or MRQ, where again, major pressure is on, and we know Astralis don't really hold up well to that, right? So it's just difficult. Like, what would I have expected from Astralis with KD in? Anyway, like they would have been somewhere in the middle of the road. I don't think that's the thing. I don't think that this will be better in terms of like what I expect, but that's assuming that HooXi can't get more out of the individuals, because I think that was a big problem of the last roster, where Device had a tournament where he was on. Stown had a couple of tournaments where he was on. YABI had like one tournament where he was on, but it was never all together at the same time. Or if it was only like for half of the tournament, and they would just crumble in a crucial match, and all that. So I wonder like whether new system or new approach will change that, because it could just be like a question of, they're not bogged down with Katie and trying to get used to a new role, while like coming up with a new vision for himself, because he has to change everything because he was used to leading from a completely different position and all that stuff. That probably hampered a lot of the progress on Astralis. And I'm curious if, just having a guy who was already in that spot from the first place and just building that around something that he's already built the rosters around in the past, I think that could work in a different way, and it could unlock the individuals a little bit better.
But we still have them being bed shitters, right? Like that's not going to change. I think if you replace Steven, you put Stair in Steven's positions, and then I don't know, you bring in another upcoming Dane, right, then you could be onto something. So
I think
Steven's had enough chances.
Right. I think the problem is just the position this roster is in with the context that I was talking about earlier with the org being in huge trouble. Who knows whether by the summer they will even have a contract, whether they will be able to keep going with this team under this organization. Like, how do they even approach this kind of a tournament? Like, is it just, can we ride out the season and see what the fuck happens in the summer? Like, is somebody going to buy this core, for example? So it's curious, like it is kind of important how they do in Astana with that in mind, because like, let's say they just shit the bed, they just go out last. Like, who will want that core even in the end? Like, maybe somebody will take Device, somebody will take HooXi,
Device to Navi.
Somebody will take Snare for like a good.
Oh, that would be fucking crazy. That'd be dope.
That would be interesting.
That would be dope. Actually.
We know that it's not going to be G2 now because Alban said that he was looking for younger players. So I think that whole angle is probably gone at the moment, But I think with that in mind, all the players are probably kind of now thinking about themselves more and their own future, and like whether maybe they can get one more guy somewhere in a different team together with them or something like that. It's just a really tough spot to be in.
All right, well, let's get into what are the odds, because this is if HooXi stays after the major. So is this staying in the org or staying with the team? Because as you painted, the org might not be the org. So how are we going to define this?
We're gonna say stay in Astralis, the organization, and play the first tournament of the second part of the season. First one after the player break for Astralis. Okay,
so this immediately gets me asking a couple of questions. So what team would be in need of an in-game leader? Obviously not G2. He's not going
I guess that's not happening.
So I have like a dream that Carrigan goes to Falcons, but Kickston's good, so there's no need for that to happen.
Okay.
Carrigan could still go to G2, right? I mean, that's also a possibility.
Yeah, but that's not anything to do with HooXi.
No, but that opens up a spot in FaZe, and like, who knows? Like,
oh, okay, yeah, you're right there. Okay, the transitive properties. Look, I'm going to go in first on this one, and I'm going to say I think it's pretty low that he ends up somewhere else unless the whole team dissolves.
Yeah. But the other option is they don't want to continue with him, or the org doesn't exist.
Yeah. So Lucas, as our resident Dane, we don't have to say anything in particular, but from being a man on the ground drinking the Danish water, if you had to say it was going one way or another, would you say that Astralis is going under by July?
No, I would not think so.
All right, I'm going to say that
I have to base stuff in like the leaks stuff they sold were apparently paid off in a 5-year period, so they've been getting payments.
Oh, they're drip feeding their death.
Yeah, they were drip feeding the payments for the spot, so they didn't just get money.
Or at least that's LEC, right, or something.
Yeah. So
cool.
So they might run out of money after that, or cash flow.
I'm going high. I'm going high then, because I've been right on a lot of these recently, and you guys have been wrong. And that's you at home. And I've been right on a lot of these. I'm going fucking 75%, baby.
I'm also going 75%. That's the number I had in my mind the whole time. Didn't copy you for sure. It just, don't see what else would happen. I don't think Astralis will completely disappear. Even if they run out of money, someone will take it over. I just feel like it's a valuable brand, and people want to have it continue. Whether it will be with the same players or not, I don't know. But I think HooXi will be there. I think he'll be there in July, late July. I think he'll be there playing Fisher or whatever.
Nice. Striker, what's your percentile?
Man. I've mathematically equated over the last 24 hours that the percentage that should be given to HooXi staying in Astralis is
40%.
Oh,
I'll go the other way.
Why low? Why low?
Because I think there's a too much of a chance that the whole org or roster or just disbands and doesn't function at that point. Maybe I'm going too high, but like all of it together, it just feels like there's a good chance that he won't. Like with how they phrased it also as a stand-in, not like a trial or not like all of that together, it just feels like so non-committal that I'm not sold. I'm not sold.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to ask chat right now. Lucas, I think, is going to put in a poll so you guys at home can have a bit of a say. And then we will accumulate the percentails, and we'll get the answer, which you on Twitter, X, or Instagram can have your say. So this is what are the odds. Lucas has put that in now. You can have your vote right now, and then we'll continue forward with some of our conversation. But yeah, look, if people are wondering why my brain's a little bit funnier at the moment, I spent 10 days in a car with Rush, so I'm a little bit like brain damaged from Rush. And it's been nice to unplug from doing some, podcasts and stuff and be back in the nature. I feel like I have a personality again.
I have to say, we did our podcast and then I saw Talking Counter. And I saw the thumbnail had you as an image. I'm like, this motherfucker went on and did the other podcast. And then I opened, it was just an image. It wasn't actually, it was.
I wasn't there.
So I was like, it's fine, actually.
I was taking the time off. I think Yanko wanted to do one tonight or today sometime. And I was like, yeah, so we might do it tomorrow. I don't know if we can do it tomorrow. Actually, I have a lot of stuff I have to do tomorrow. Tomorrow is a busy day. Tomorrow we've got some stuff to film.
Let's see what the chat says. 60%. Okay.
All right. So the overall percentage that you guys will get to vote yes or no against is 159 if you want to vote yes, that's 63%. So that's what the majority have gone with, or 270 if you want to go with no. So you get to have your say at home. We'll accumulate it. The money based off of the answer being correct or not will go into a pool, and we'll give away some skins towards the end of the season, or maybe not skins, maybe something else. I don't know what we'll give away, but we'll give away something at the end of the season to our lovely viewers. So thank you everybody for participating. Okay, jumping more forward, as mentioned, all the teams are finalized for the major. That was concluded with the MRQs, which took place across all of the major regions, and Gamer Legion and Fnatic, as well as SAW, actually, didn't end up qualifying for the major. Gamer Legion being the biggest upset, I would imagine, especially based off the performance we've seen from them in Melbourne now. And it got Harry out there back on the blower, having a fucking Suki, having a Teary. Win your fucking games. No, here's what I'll say, just on that, just quickly. I don't know if that's our fix our shit. What's our fix our shit?
Actually, I didn't have anything specially prepared, so I'll just wing it. I'll just wing one. So
I can just wing it right now if you want.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, so Fix Our Sit, brought to you by our lovely chair sponsor, Anthros. What I'm going to be going on a soapbox about today is the MRQs. And this is going to be a two-part process. The first part of the process is going to be talking about the problems at hand. Now, obviously, we'd all prefer this to be on LAN. The only way that's going to happen is if Valve front up money, which they should. So what you should all do, players, people on the internet, on the forums, on the Reddits, make some noise, make a racket, make sure that it's seen and regularly.
No, don't do that. I said buy more cases.
No, well, here's the thing.
Don't do that. It doesn't make a difference.
You guys at home, right? You can influence what the Valve devs think, right? You can definitely do that. So if you're talking about this regularly, not literally as the MRQs are happening, you might have a chance on getting it there. But if we can't have the MRQs on LAN, why do we have to follow the major format of Swiss with the best of ones? It's online. We're not, we don't have the same time constraints, and people are at home. We don't have to pay for hotels. We don't have to have all the different setups. We don't have to have all that bullshit. We don't need admins, camera people, casters. We don't need any of that. Well, actually, we do need casters. But what we could do is have Swiss, but best of three the whole way through. And people will be like, yeah, but it's not like that of the major. All right, that's a whole different conversation. This is the qualification for the major, which we assume is going to have the stickers with all the money. So why don't, when we have the ability of more time and not the same constraints of hotel rooms and PCs and all of that, just do best of threes the whole way through the Swiss, right? I understand that it's still online. That sucks. But unless Valve is going to front money, you're asking these TOs to then get the money from nowhere. And I don't think that's going to happen, especially in the climate we find ourselves now. When you look at all the TOs who are doing B streams, they're all remote at the moment. They've moved away from doing them on LAN. So the best way to, find a middle ground would be to turn the format into something that we think is a little bit more forgiving or a little bit more beneficial to the higher seeded teams, which within Europe, in my mind, would be best of three Swiss the entire way through. The other is players don't fucking complain about the fact that it's online as it's happening online. We spoke about this shit when it was announced to be online. You should be making noise about the problems when the problems are fucking announced. Because if you make noise about the problems as the problem is literally being played, nothing can fucking happen. So take your head out of your ass for 1 second. I understand you only want to be in the server and play CS, but look at the bigger picture, because we're on these talk shows. Other talk shows are going on. People are talking about it on Reddit, but you are the ones with the most say and the most influence. So instead of waiting until the final moment to make noise and complain about it when nothing can happen, complain about it in advance. You are the only ones with the influence. Valve care the most about what you, the people who are the best players in the world, have to say. So fucking say something early, not as it's happening, because we can't do shit. And then I'm just like, just shut the fuck up. Like, you had your chance. Anyway,
that was the most Ranty fixer shit we've ever had.
You said it. You said everything. Nothing really to add. Honestly, nothing to add. It's it was always going to happen like this. It was always going to fuck over some big teams and some good teams. And by big teams, I mean Astralis, and by good teams, I mean Gamer Legion, not to be conflated between the two. Because like we saw Astralis this year. Astralis this year doesn't have like a 50% map win rate over the whole year on LAN. They're not a good LAN team. If we gave them more opportunities, they'd lose anyway. They're just not a good team. So they're deservedly not there. Gamer Legion, actually very unlucky. They could have gone directly, realistically, if they don't get fucked first by that one VP game that they lose mid Katowice, when they then tomorrow don't get invited to Blast Lisbon because it's like, you know, just on the cutoff of the VRS invites, which gets patched in the rules by Valve, because it doesn't really make sense that they would, you know, have mid-tournament results dictating invites. And then, yeah, they lose that. Then they can't play enough LANs, and they're just below Astralis there. They could have gone to LAN, just could have gone directly to the major. They come to Melbourne. They go to playoffs. They go to playoffs in Bucharest. They're a pretty good team.
They're a good team. I like watching Gamer Legion play.
It is a shame that they're not there. They kind of shit the bed a bit. They also played best of ones, lost mostly the best of ones. You also don't have your fucking coach there. It's just a shitty format. But it is what it is. Still, they had their chance. Kind of unlucky. Kind of.
I wish it was on LAN. I wish they were all on LAN. I wish that we didn't have sub-region split. We've already had that conversation plenty of times. LAN would be better.
Yeah,
I think the viewership was down overall.
If I'm completely honest, one adjustment that I would do is for Europe to just have more direct invites and make this MRQ more of a proper tournament where you just get like 2 spots or something. So you can have your 16-team Swiss into a playoff, and then just get like 2 teams or something from it, and just have a few more directly invited. I think that would make more sense, and format-wise, it's better than this stupid like Swiss that qualifies 6 teams. That's not really the ideal way of using Swiss anyway. Like the Bates run was kind of insane, like going 0-2 and then 5 wins in a row to qualify. Like, why do you have to win 5 times? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense if someone wins 2 best of ones and a best of 3, and this team has to win 5. 5 best of 3s.
Look, this is the other thing as well. Like we've known from the start of this year there was going to be a lot of changes, and there'd be teething issues and things to point out. That's the good thing, right? And I'm glad that we have these things to talk about, because it makes these talk shows and the community have something to talk about, which is great. And we're always going to be striving for improvement and whatnot. So yeah, we'll have to see what comes in the future with all of this. But yeah, I also want to point out, I'm going to break the wall of illusion here.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm going on a rant like that, guys, it's for your entertainment. Because it doesn't matter to me if you qualify for the major or not. It's to get the people going. It's provocative. All right? I'm all good. I'm mentally sound. I'm sane. Wait for the Cassius show match. You're going to fucking see it. Anyway, okay.
Fix Your Shit, sponsored by Anthros.
Gang. All right. FURIA, YEKINDAR. I guess.
Yeah, this happened, I guess. You know, they signed this Kazakh hopper, and they're like, you're not going to believe what we're going to do next. It's going to be even crazier. And they signed YEKINDAR. And I read the translation of like Fallen's video, and he said, first of all, it's going to help m0NESY kind of, you know, integrate into the group. YEKINDAR is like speaks Russian, but also is like international kind of guy, so he can like bridge the gaps. And he can like be a secondary. He in-game led in the past, so he has like a lot of knowledge, and his aggressive profile like Cello, which he is. So all of these things somewhat make sense, but it's also like, what's the point? What is this? This is just such a mixed bag.
Do you
of
know
everything.
how many fucks I give about FURIA?
one
Precisely
for KSCERATO.
Negative fucks. Here's the things. Fallen will retire by end of the year. KSCERATO's wasted his career. There you go. That's the takeaways for all this. There you go, everybody. KSCERATO wasted his career.
I'm just saying, KSCERATO should go to Falcons. He should go to Falcons. That should be Falcons' next move.
How old's KSCERATO now? Isn't he like 27?
Something like that.
25, I think. 25.
25.
He's still pretty young.
Yeah.
He can play amazing as an anchor, like one of those overqualified anchors in the world. I still think he's like really good. Even this year, he's been pretty good. He's been like so much better than that rest of FURIA. So I think it's a banger move.
I think you picked the wrong players. You get bit. NAVI fucked.
I don't know if NAVI really don't want to let him go.
Yeah, but Ilya really wants to play with him. Yeah. Imagine how happy he'd be with Bit on one side and NiKo on the other. It'd be like his two best friends. It'd be like his big brother and his twin brother.
I mean, not best friends according to Reddit. That's what I'm going to say.
Well, I don't know. I see them hanging out all the time. And then they could get like, I don't know, KSCERATO, their fifth or something. I don't
You're not on Reddit these days, Chad, are you?
I didn't.
No,
I didn't catch that either.
No one read the comments on like the m0NESY interview about NiKo. Like, it feels best to play with NiKo, something like that. And then all of the Reddit comments are just like fucking fanfic. Literally 50 comments of fanfic of NiKo and m0NESY. Didn't see this.
I did see an image on Twitter of like NiKo and m0NESY making out.
Yeah, that was a lot of that in Reddit. Somehow, like I've never seen Reddit like that. There was like literally 50% of the comments under that interview. It was amazing.
All right, fair enough. Okay, should we move into talking about Melbourne?
Yeah,
this FURIA lineup is just it's a disaster. That's all I'm gonna say.
What do you want to say about this, Striker? Surely
I am
good.
confused. But
so are they.
But role wise, it makes sense. Like it does. Like this, let's Park Fallen like transitioning into Rifler and all that stuff aside. But technically, it works. I don't see why it wouldn't. Like from a role perspective, but it is just so confusing to just suddenly be like, yeah, okay, let's get 2 Russian speakers because why not?
I'll just say, following FURIA the last few months, like. Their issue was CT sides horrible. And part of that is like, I guess, except Fallen, no one's really calling anything or like, organizing stuff. You need like someone on the other side of the map to do stuff when Fallen's not there. And I don't think they have that essentially. True. So they're like, okay, we'll bring in YEKINDAR to do that. And then, but now you have an Opper who's going to play Op roles. Fallen should play like rotation role. He shouldn't anchor. I think that's a horrible idea because you want them to be more active. And then YEKINDAR should also probably play rotation roles. So between Fallen and YEKINDAR, who YEKINDAR has struggled so much in recent times, Fallen on the rifle, the firepower there is just non-existent in terms of like top teams in tier 1 CS today. So I just think part of the idea makes sense and the other part is just doesn't at all.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't even know what to say.
The fact that the flagship Brazilian team is moving away from Brazilian players means that the buyouts on the other prospects within the region must be ridiculous.
It was also
FURIA, I think it's a different direction that they need to go.
Yeah, I mean, what Fallen said also was that like the last time he saw somebody match like the level that he put up in 2016-17 from an opping perspective was like Henny in 2018, and then since then, like the opping talent in Brazil hasn't been that great. And
that's true.
I mean, to be fair, that's a fair comment.
That's fair, yeah.
These days, you have NQZ
and tries not
who
even
they tried, who they tried, and that didn't work, right? Try also not like even if let's forget the language difference, right? I mean, he's been playing with Portuguese teams anyway, Portuguese speaking teams anyway. But like, who out of these excites you at the moment? Like, yeah, okay, they can all have a decent level.
Hold up. Pain have been better than FURIA for most of the year, right? Or the last 12 months, I'd say.
Yeah.
Pain could, in my mind, like if they had KSCERATO in the current roster instead of the new kid they just added, would be sick. You could even get Skulls now in that position.
Yeah, they're
right?
getting a new player. Like that's a temporary.
He's only temporary, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're getting DGT. That's been rumored forever, I think.
But would maybe go for Skulls now. Maybe fucking get Skulls in there now. Why not?
But I think it's probably like you would have to kick Snow, and I don't think they want to do that.
Honestly, they should get if KSCERATO wants to speak Brazilian or wants to play in a Brazilian team, he should go to Pain. It's just go to Pain instead of Snow.
Well, because most people's dream Brazilian team was using the core of Pain for a while, right? Like it was, you were looking at
I mean, they have
NQZ,
more
Big
going
Zero.
right now. Right now, they have more like good Brazilian because they have NQZ as an opera and Big Zero as an IGL. They have two of the hardest things to fill. They just miss like one like star player kind of. And KSCERATO is a star, but is not a star in terms of roles in many ways.
Massive numbers,
yeah,
from his position. So, you know, it could be worth something there. But
anyway, I just hope he doesn't stay there because now it doesn't really make any sense anymore. Like I was supporting him, but now I don't support that anymore.
Actually, he could now go to Liquid. He could now go to Liquid and replace NAV. That would be good.
Yeah,
they could keep the North America. They could keep the America spot then. Like that would actually be.
I feel like we're just barking up the wrong tree. Like it's not that's not happening. It's never happened. Like
but he's a really nice guy, though. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah,
he's like my top 5 nice guys. Yeah, one of them also retired. Tizian always said hi. Always said hi. What a nice guy. Properly like raised. You know, respect that.
All right, everybody. Just say hi to Prof every time you see him. Okay.
Nice. And you're going to be top 5 nice guy.
Let's talk about IEM Melbourne 2025. Now, most of you probably haven't been able to watch due to the time zone. I apologize for that. But here's a couple of realizations.
Change your country's time zone, please.
Here's a couple of realizations I've had since being home.
Okay.
The place is too nice for us to have the decent amount of the 30 million people bothering to play Counter-Strike. Yeah, that is why we will always be bad. The place is just too nice. Like the deathmatch survey, I'm playing the deathmatch here, and if I'm playing deathmatch in Europe, I'm getting fucking ragdolled. If I'm playing deathmatch here and I'm like managing a 2KD, we got problems, guys. Like that can't be happening. That can't be going on. Like there's just not enough players, and because like iron sharpens iron, it's not possible. So Australia is just too nice of a country, and you know, ask all the players who are here. They'll say how bloody lovely it is.
Just look at even Europe. Just go South Europe, like everything along the coast. Look at Italy has no players at all. No players. True. Croatia has no players. Serbia has a bunch of players. Bosnia has players. Croatia has
Spain's
no players.
Mid.
You know, Spain's mid, but that's also huge. So I'm going to presume they're all from the continental. No one lives on the beach. Everyone that has like 5 months of summer does not play Counter-Strike. That's just how it is. Like when I was like in the Croatian scene, come June, everyone takes like a 2 months break. Everyone's just on the beach every day. No one's playing Counter-Strike. That's just like ruined. Teams are just disband for the summer and then, you know, make new teams in the winter when it's cold. So I completely agree.
There is the other parts here at this event. This is the best hotel that I think the players and us as the broadcasters and even all the crew is here, I'm pretty sure, have ever been put in at an event ever. And I've been doing this since the last quarter of 2016. This hotel, I'm on the 34th floor, right now. I have a washing machine, a microwave, a full-sized fucking fridge, a dishwasher. The washing machine also does drying. The bedroom is in its own room. There's aircon in multiple rooms. I have a dining table right next to me. I have 2 fucking televisions. Both of the televisions
but you know what
have
the forums said when I put that in shorts, because I thought this is fucking insane for a standard for a tournament, CS tournament. Let me just pull that up. Let me see. I want to see it. Wait, I just wanted to read out some of the comments because it was amazing. When was this was week 16 probably.
So it would have been on the Saturday or the Sunday?
Let me see. Let me find it.
We need to find this.
There we go.
Like, there's a stovetop in here, man. I could cook if I wanted to cook.
Insane.
Okay, what's so special about it? No nudes, no fun. The most normal, average-looking room. So exciting. Look, mate, a fridge. That's great, isn't it?
Okay.
Jesus Christ. Like, I wish I wish I could cause that's what. How often do you see players or anybody doing videos of rooms normally? There's a reason that doesn't happen because they're just fucking tiny. We get looked after very well by all the TOs, but it's not like this. This is fucking crazy.
The thing
anyway.
is, like, the room doesn't look insane, but it's huge and has a lot of shit inside.
Massive,
yeah, it's not like it's fucking marble and gold or whatever the fuck. But having a fucking washer dryer, insane. Just like chuck in some underwear, infinite underwear hack, insane.
That's true.
actually so good.
The other key part here that's been really good, or that will be really good, I think, coming up is the Rod Laver Arena, which anybody who's familiar with tennis should probably be familiar with because the Australian Open is played in the Rod Laver Arena, and we're in there today for rehearsal. I think that there is going to be 9,000 people, which would make it like the third highest in terms of bums in seats of an ESL event after like Cologne, Rio, and then this one.
Oh, bigger than Katowice.
Bigger than Katowice.
That's
and
pretty
it's full.
sick.
It's sold out.
That's pretty sick.
What it kind of reminded me of was when PGL did the Copenhagen Major in the Royal Arena. That's kind of what it feels like with the layout in there. It feels like deep and the walls feel quite high. So it feels, the stage is obviously different. It's not like a blast stage, but 9,000 people, I think, is a jump of, I don't know the figures that they had on the previous Australian events, but I would say it's probably a jump of anywhere from like 3,000 to 4,000 people.
Yeah, I would say like
a day.
5,000-6,000 would be, you know, the Dallas and Sydney before, and Katowice as well. I don't know, maybe 7. I don't know where Katowice.
Not that much. It's like around 5, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. That's pretty nice. We got some good teams in the playoffs. We got some big names going home, not to be conflated with good teams. And we also got Falcons. I guess we can talk about Falcons first.
Obviously, m0NESY debut.
Yeah, we need to touch on them. But other than that, mostly focusing on the eliminated teams. Yeah, I mean, looking pretty good. I think anyone expecting them to not be improved is insane. But I don't think I saw a lot of that. Mostly it was just, you know, haters. And it's fine to be a hater. There's many reasons why to hate this team. I can't fault you at all. But reality is just like, you have m0NESY is such a great player that he's just going to instantly improve your team. That's just how it is. Regardless of Dexter being MVP or not, he's just going to make your team so much better. And they are.
Yeah.
I mean, feel like his... go, Striker.
No, I was just going to say, like, as much as he was kind of lukewarm outside of that new NAVI series, like, he was the reason why they made it to playoffs in that NAVI series effectively. Like, the comeback on T side of Mirage and then the last map, like, it just, like, that's... As much as we saw Dexter sometimes pull that off, like, we know that m0NESY is just going to be able to do it much more consistently, and that's just, it is impossible for Falcons not to be better, just as a result of that change.
I think the thing is, though, the Dexter getting the MVP in Bucharest, like, whitewashed the reality of Dexter versus m0NESY.
Yeah.
The amount of, like, dialogue I saw about, like, how can they do this? Like, I was like, are you guys joking? Like, m0NESY is one of the absolute best Counter-Strike players in the world. Dexter performed very well, don't get me wrong. Also played in a field without the best Counter-Strike teams in the world at the event. So yeah, justice for Dexter. But yeah, look, I think that in that Vitality series, the fun thing, even though they didn't win a map, just was the level of skill on display. The amount of like crazy, oh shit, like a Deagle 2 or 3K, or, you know, and it was coming out of both players.
Tessus was doing mad shit. Like, it wasn't even m0NESY like in that series. It was just like all the other guys, basically.
Yeah, which is good though, right? Because we can talk about NiKo and we can talk about m0NESY until the cows come home, and we know that Vitality's stacked. But if it is let's say a Falcons versus Vitality final, which would mean Falcons have to get past m0NESY, then it can't just be those two. Like, the other players are going to have to be able to contribute right there, because at the moment Vitality have all 5 players online. Nobody's dragging there. So yeah, look, it's a good first step to go into this event with 1 day worth of practice, or 1.5, and then be able to make it through to the playoffs. That's great. Obviously, they're going to get. Their opening game in the arena is going to be against Gamer Legion, who have most of their players very inexperienced in that type of a venue. Whereas on the other side of the server, Magus, NiKo, and m0NESY combined probably have every single member of Gamer Legion covered in that sense. So you would have Falcons as the favorite just because of the nerve factor there. But yeah, look, it's a good showing out the gates.
Yeah, I mean, since we talked about it, Chad, what are your thoughts generally on this Falcons lineup? We were talking about them making like the semifinals of the major. You know, that was kind of like a split decision last time on the show. Where do you see them going?
They don't really get much time to practice, right? Because it's going to be straight from here, straight into rivals, and then from
Astana?
rivals, right? They're
There's
not
like a week
in Astana
until.
They're not in Astana?
Oh, no, they're not.
Astana.
G2 is, yeah.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
so they'll be in Dallas. So they'll get like a 2-week break to kind of gear up for Dallas, and then they'll get time off after Dallas before their point of the major. So they'll get spurts of development in terms of how far they can go. I don't know. I would say major playoffs. You'd expect, like considering the field right now, like because Navi is still in a free fall. Like they're not looking anywhere near. Like they're in crisis, and I think FaZe are the same. And I think it's a mistake for both of those teams to not try and make a change if available. Like that's the thing. It depends on what's available. But I think they just both need something to kind of reignite, or for FaZe's sake, just ignite the flame. It really makes me sad reading these Carrigan tweets. Like, yeah, bro, well, you can do everything you want, Finn. That's not going to fix the problems in your team, buddy. Like you can come up with all the strats. You can bring the right attitude all the time. It ain't happening, Chief. Like I think I was out on FaZe early. I'm still out on FaZe, which is sad, but that's just true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just last thing on Falcons, and then we can talk about FaZe, I guess, a bit more and whatever. Do you think this is a super team? Because this is a
Falcons?
word, that has been thrown around. Yeah, I agree with that completely. Just because, I mean, you have two insane players, but the other three are not super team material. Like Kicksan could be, one of the best IGLs, and maybe he will prove that this year, but hasn't proven that yet. Nessus is a serviceable player. And then Magix has been kind of struggling, actually. I wouldn't put him anywhere near, the best anchor or, in his role player. So I don't think super team, because if they were, then like G2s of the past would be super teams, and no one really consider them that either. So yeah, that was just my thought. Just wanted to hear your guys' opinions.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said last show, I think.
Yeah.
Like literally the same exact point.
That's fair. Okay, so Navi, I just made my thoughts quite clear on them. Gentlemen, what do you think with this team? Is it fucking done?
Needs a roster change. Just needs it.
But who? Which player?
Honestly, really just depends on what's available. I think
they're not going to do it. That's the problem.
I think Bit is safe. Honestly, I know stat-wise, Wonderful doesn't look that great, but I don't think he's that bad, considering like generally where most of the uppers are in the top 10, 15. Like I don't think you can point out more than 4 or 5 players that are like obviously better than him.
Not like, available probably.
Yeah, so it's like, yes, Zaiwu, m0NESY, Shiro, Torji. These guys are better than him. And then everyone else it's not a huge jump, I think. So like I don't really think you can find a replacement. And when people are talking about Simple, don't want to even talk, like we even saw, we heard now what like G2 CEO thinks about it. So it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And then it has to be among the other 2-3, it has to be Ime or JL, realistically. I don't think also Alexi B, who you're going to find to upgrade that position. I don't think there's a lot. I think honestly, JL is probably the easiest to replace, but that's also what Apex thought when he left Apex, the team, the organization. So yeah. Look at them now. You can't look at them because they don't exist.
And the fact that Navi struggled to get past FlyQuest, like that says it all, really. Like that's not the quality that Navi should be outputting. FlyQuest played well, and they're definitely looking better than they did. But Navi shouldn't be losing Mirage to a team that's map used to be the permaban of Mirage.
Did you see that they banned it? Yeah, against Liquid. Navi banned Mirage first round.
Well, that's sign of the times, then, isn't it?
Yeah, that's super concerning, honestly.
Yeah. Sign of the times. But that's the thing. Nothing's going to change before the major. So
yeah.
I haven't seen enough of this kid from the academy to see if he would be worth anything.
Like Makaza, or
yeah, or just
it's a big risk to take on someone who's unproven at the level.
Yeah, but they did it.
I mean, they made it happen
with
Bits. Exactly. Like, I mean, they gave him just some time to see if he has it, right, and then eventually they put him in.
But realistically, not going to happen before the major. Even Blade said it. Like they would consider changes if they don't make the playoffs. That's what he said. Which to me reads as they will make changes if they don't make the playoffs. I'm pretty sure there is no way around it, right? This team has been together for quite a long time. Didn't make last major playoffs. Didn't really do much this year at all. Like early on, lost to Spirit a few times. It was just like, give some hope, like, they're losing to Spirit, which are really good, but now they're losing to everyone and struggling against everyone. There's no easy win for NAVI. When's the last time they 2-0'd someone? They are like losing maps to MIBR, to Mongols, to FlyQuest. Like, yeah, it's just it needs more firepower and needs just influx of new energy because it's getting stale. I
think they're kind of suffering from the same thing that FaZe were last year, effectively. I mean, before they. Well, I mean, I guess you can make an argument that made things worse by the lineup changes, but that also included losing Robs, right? Like when they still had the roster with Frozen and Robs, you couldn't really pick one player to kick. Like none of them were bad, and like you couldn't point out like one of them was a problem of this roster. But somehow all of it together doesn't work. Like they just aren't at the same level anymore, right? And that's the same thing with NAVI now, where they've been together in the same lineup for. What is it now? Like 2 years, almost a year and a half.
Yeah.
Which is like a really long time, even for an LV roster, for a really long time to stick together in one team. We're still going to see them together probably for another 2-3 months. So it just feels like one of those situations where it just needs fresh blood, as Prof was saying, and that just reinvigorates them, right? Regardless of maybe that player isn't that actual problem or causing any real issues or like roles or whatever like that. But it just needs something new. Sometimes that just happens in teams.
Yeah, well, I think we can jump to FaZe because they're in a boat where they need something to change, but it's not obviously because things are getting old and worn down. This is Elige coming in 2025, and the constellation of the team just doesn't make sense. Like it looks so. It looks disjointed.
Yeah,
it doesn't look like it works.
That's the craziest thing about the whole thing. Like this should not happen, and it's not even we were talking about like roles and blah blah. It's not even the 5v5. It's like the 3v3. That's when they look the worst.
What about the 1v3?
What about the 1v3? What about the 1v3? How is that happen? Why is
2 1v3s even?
I was watching. Someone made a thread this morning. It's like still thinking about the 1v3, and
I bet Kerrigan is as well, huh?
And it's like, why is Brokey there with a SMG? There's 2 AKs on the ground next to him. Why is Frozen on the op? Why doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And these kind of rounds, I've been like when I was watching Bucharest and when I was preparing for Bucharest, it's just like they're doing these kinds of things all the time. They're losing rounds this is like easy cleanup for FaZe, but they're managing to fuck it up. And Brokey individually does carry a lot of that load. He's been on a downward trajectory for so long, honestly, and it's just kind of been under the radar because it's Brokey and it's FaZe, and it's like give him a few tournaments and they're gonna pop off and he's gonna be MVP and stuff. But that hasn't been happening. And
look, that you bring up though, right? And here's what happens with these scenarios: people go, "Oh, he's just not playing like he used to." But people need to look at why he might not be playing like he used to, right? What was the recipe for him to play well? What were the things that were happening when he was doing what he does best? Brokey was always that type of an AWPer that in the chaotic moments was able to thrive within that chaos, right? He'd push through that smoke and he'd get you that triple kill on the AWP when you were like, how the fuck did that just happen? He was an X-Factor player in that way. But the team doesn't even feel like they're able to find themselves in those positions anymore for him to be able to do that. That would rely on his riflers to be able to cause a decent amount of a distraction or do enough damage or slow them down for him to be able to capitalize on that. And like with this whole comms conversation, the change of roles, Elige, was it in an interview or somewhere where was it Kerrigan who said, Elige doesn't thrive in the chaos the same way, or I don't maybe
something like that. Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing very poorly, so I apologize for that. But the scenarios of where Brokey would do his best where before doesn't exist anymore. So for Brokey not playing well now, right? Yeah, he's not playing well. I think he would be one of the first people to admit that, but the scenarios change. So he needs to now either find a new way to be successful in the new scenario or find a new scenario himself, right? Yeah. Because I don't think he's done. I just think that this team right now doesn't work the way it used to work. And we all want FaZe to be the way it used to be because that was the most exciting team in Counter-Strike. But they're not that anymore. They're not that anymore. They struggle at the basics, which means now they can't even have the chaotic moments where they come in clutch and do crazy things and blow everybody's minds. The whole thing's different.
I want to, because solving the problem for FaZe it's not easy, but you can think about it one of two ways. Be like, okay, Elise is wants to play a different style of Counter-Strike than, maybe Brokey wants to, and then Rain needs to accommodate for Elise because he's like giving some spots away. I still think it makes more sense to stick to like Elise and Frozen and build around that than to try to make Brokey comfortable, because even before Elise came in, Brokey wasn't doing that hot anyway last year. And Rain is like, how many more years can he have of being like a top player? Like I feel like if there's a time to make a shift in FaZe, it's now. But as you kind of alluded before, I don't think this roster, there's no amount of like moving things around that's going to fix it. I think
plus, if
just
what you're
that
saying,
doesn't work.
You remove Brokey, you remove Rain, because then you can keep the core, you keep Carrigan, you keep Elise, you keep Frozen. Then you're looking for players to fill those type of voids. So if you want an AWPer that's going to be more like system-based and not in the chaos, then you try and get yourself a device, right? Even though he's older. Yeah. But your Brokey and your Elise, actually Elise isn't young anymore, is he? Well, then you could aim for the last piece as a younger piece. And I guess like, you'd want somebody more as a hard anchor.
Frozen is still pretty young, right? Elise isn't young, but I feel like he's still pretty hungry. I don't see him. He's also not 30. He's like 27, right? So yeah, still like a few years definitely of like prime gaming in him. That's without a doubt. So I still think that's a core to work around. I in my opinion.
Yeah, well, this is another nothing will change until after the major type situation. So we're talking about things that will pop up in 3 months' time. So
device, JL, Kerrigan, Frozen, Leash. I wouldn't mind that. I feel like that wouldn't be bad.
Excuse me. Yeah, it's possible. Okay. Final piece. VP blamed coach for issues. Another one gone. What was it? Zoma, Dustan, Pashanoj. Who's next?
Who is next? I feel like Norbert needs to come in as coach. What do you guys think about this?
Right. Who gives a fuck about VP?
We were positive last time we spoke about them.
Now I'm out.
I mean,
got 2-0 by FlyQuest.
That's the thing. Like I was sold a bit of a lie there. Yeah, in Lisbon, I was sold a lie a bit. There's some potential, but then you see that it is exactly everything that I expected to happen. Sign Flamus, put him to play long on Dust 2. Even though it doesn't suit him at all. Be surprised when he has no confidence, because when he makes a mistake, someone's screaming at him from one PC down. Fucking Icy, same thing. Like, we're actually playing somewhat promising. Also, whenever he does a mistake, he's just being destroyed. Why do you sign a rookie if you think he's going to play perfect Counter-Strike? He's not going to play fucking perfect, especially Flamus. Flamus didn't play anything similar to perfect Counter-Strike in Gamer Legion. Why do you sign him? Why do you sign him? And then he goes out and says, everything I did in Gamer Legion was wrong. What's the point?
That's kind of crazy, yeah.
What's the point? It doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't know. Let me pretend that I'm a boomer for a moment, right? Because I don't actually think this way, but Prof, haven't the new generation of Counter-Strike players gotten soft? The fact that they can't just stand being yelled at mid-game in a highly tense situation, playing for hundreds of thousands of dollars and then just deal with it. These absolute soft cocks out there. You know what I'm saying? Like the fact that they just can't be screamed at, it's fucked. What's the world come to?
The thing is, like, what do people think this is going to accomplish? How do people think this is good? Like, do you think like
just the
Flameth is just gonna magically,
bro. It's just
magically gonna win the next round because someone screamed at him? It's like, oh yeah, next time I'm in this situation, I'll remember because this guy screamed his ass off. Like, no, they're fucking professionals. They want to play better. I don't think you need to yell at them to make a point that they should have planted on the other side, which it should have. Like this last round that they lost to Shui on Ancient. Did you see this one? Anyways, 3v3 turned into 1v2. Icy is in cave. Flameth is rotating to CT. Icy peaks on 0.0001 seconds after the smoke drops. Not even tapped bomb. Dies. And Flameth is like too far away and the bomb is defused. It's like, this is horrible. It's a horrible mistake. But what are you going to do? Are you going to yell at him? Like, I don't know. This is not fucking 95 anymore. You're not a football coach.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, gentlemen, we're going to close up the show shortly. So I want to do some outlandish predictions. Let's go across the room. Striker, does Vitality win the Grand Slam down under?
Yeah.
Yes. I thought you were offer some slight resistance.
No,
Prof.
it's just that they're just so fucking far ahead of everybody. Like, even, they have these maps where they look like they're in dangers, but then even the other two they just destroy, or the next one they destroy. Like, they just look pretty unbeatable at the moment.
Do you agree, Prof? Do you disagree? Do you think either Falcons or m0NESY can beat them?
I think they're winning.
Okay. So who's do we think is just going to be another m0NESY Vitality final?
I think it's Falcons Vitality.
Ooh.
I think it's m0NESY.
I think if it's Falcons Vitality, it's a 3-0 final. I think if it's m0NESY Vitality, it could play a few more rounds, maps, and rounds, because you need more rounds to play more maps. So, but I still think Vitality win. I think that they're locked in. I think that their season has worked out perfectly. If you're going to go and look at a team and look at the blueprint of what you would like to be able to achieve with the VRS in your favor, it would be consistently picking and choosing events to skip, going to tournaments fully ready and raring to go to win, and then converting those tournaments. And that's what they've been able to do. Obviously, it helps when you win because it means you don't have to emergency go, oh shit, we have to attend this. We're not worried. We're worried about getting too low in the rankings. We need the VRS points. But their season's worked out perfectly. And I know that there's been a lot of criticism and a lot of this about, oh my God, I can't believe teams are boycotting PGL events. Guys,
ESL is pulling all the strings.
Backroom dealings. As the seasons progress, you will see more and more teams towards the upper echelons, right? Unless they're trying to bed in new players because of roster changes, tactically choosing which events they're going to go to. This is literally the intention of this change by Valve. It is to allow the teams to pick and choose their tournaments. They talk about being too burnt out, having to go to too many events. The idea was to allow them to go, okay, this is a tournament we want to go to. This is a tournament we want to win. So then you can give that tournament 110% as opposed to giving 4 tournaments in a row 85%. We will see once things slowly get a bit more cemented with teams, because right now it's moving a lot for everybody other than Vitality and m0NESY, I'd say. You will see teams tactically skipping events, and they won't always be a PGL event. Sometimes it'll be an ESL event. Sometimes it'll be a Blast event. Sometimes it'll be a Star Ladder event. You're going to see that. That's what's going to happen. This is what we talked about all through last year. Let's not all act like this is a fucking brand new phenomenon. All right? Let's not be dumb cunts. Let's be smart cunts, because smart cunts get paid. All right? All right.
Okay. Any other hot takes for the playoffs?
Going to be nuts. The Cashes is going to be one to remember. That's all I'm going to say. Australia going for 5 from 5. 5 from fucking 5.
Are they putting, is Mac going to be in the arena?
For some portions, I would believe. I don't know. I can't comment on that as an authority.
Would be rough.
What, for him to not be in the arena?
Yeah, after like just using it, not casting, but I hope he does something, because he is just literally the fucking Lee-mate interview bombarding me 25 times a day in ESL Pro League. If he doesn't get actually any space at IM Melbourne, I'm gonna write an angry tweet.
I think Lee-mate will be there.
Yeah, he should be.
So we'll see him. But yeah, it's all going to go down. So unfortunately for the Europeans, it's going to be hard for you guys to tune in. I think that the final, though,
not too bad.
8 p.m. is the second best of threes each day local, which was midday, 12 o'clock for you guys.
So 9 and 12. This is fine. This is fine.
9 a.m., 12 p.m.
Yeah, the caches are going to be a bit tough. That's on Sunday, right? That's before the final.
Sunday, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
that's a
so
bit
that'd
tough
be a
because
bit early.
8:30 is the grand final. So
Yeah.
we will not be watching.
No, that's fine. It's all right. It's more for the people in the arena anyway. But Henry should be landing later tonight, and we'll get it all sorted. Should
Nice.
be fun.
Enjoy.
Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I hope everybody has had a good week, I suppose. It's been a week. Had a good Easter, all that good stuff. Prof's going to be away next week. So Striker and I will have to work something out regarding a podcast. I am also signed up.
I'm in Rivals from Monday as well. So, I mean, I can probably do something from there, but that would have to be on an off day or something.
All right, guys, I'm going to do a solo podcast on one of the days. So we'll work something out for next week. I will also be playing in a tournament next week with Harry and Hugo.
Okay.
So, you might be able to tune and check that one out. But yeah, we'll work something out for next week.
Nice.
Yeah, cool. All right. Thanks for everybody for watching. Thanks to Anthros. Thanks to Skin Place. Thank you to all of our lovely viewers. Shout out to Tony Lab. And we will see all of you on the next installment of HLTV Confirmed. Good night.
Sell in-game items at the best prices in just a couple of clicks. We are the biggest instant sell service for in-game items like Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, and Rust. Easy selling process and instant withdrawal of funds to the most popular payment methods. More than 140,000 deals and 50,000 active sellers every month. Use promo code HLTV5 and get a 5% bonus on the sale of your skins. Skin Place. Sell items now.
It was more than a game. It was everything. Every single emotion on display. Not a moment missed. This was CSGO through the lens.